Just like religious people don't want to hear going to church isn't really making real changes. Everything about church is designed to make you feel good, um, not confront your problems. Like you set a date Sunday, you show up with everybody who agrees with you. Then the pastor, the whoever stands up, says some inspiring shit, and you feel good, and you feel united. And then they pass the collection plate, and you give some money for the service. Then you and your other religious friends go in the yard or go out to a restaurant, and you eat a buffet. You get your plate of food, and you're pumped. You feel good, and you give them money for that uplifted feeling. Um, Progressives really don't want to hear this, but No Kings was made by the CIA to make church for you. That's not real resistance. It's just not. Simply gathering in a place does not equal making change. Where the place is and what you're doing are everything. So, if you're going to your church where everyone's Christian, everyone agrees with you, you're not really confronting atheists or Muslims. You're not resisting anything. You're just pro Christian and you're feeling good and united. In a similar way, No Kings, even the name is a psyops, No Kings. Think about what you're buying when you engender the label of No Kings. You're buying that everything was fine until Trump. So if everything was fine until Trump, why were there any progressives before Trump? Even the name is something from the bowels of the CAA, No Kings. Like in calling it No Kings and saying you're a part of No Kings, you are tacitly accepting there was no need to be a progressive in America before Trump. Everything was fine. We don't need health care. In fact, I like insurance, which is what will say. We don't have a problem with poverty. Despite the fact we have so much land, there's no reason private equity and billionaires should be buying these houses and being able to make people homeless. None of that should be going on. Nah, 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 none of that was it. No Kings. Trump. Trump is our issue. Not Trump is a symptom of a system, and the same billionaires in power then are in power now. The narrative Trump is an out of the box revolution, and everything was fine until Trump. That's some shit a neocon would say. Like, I'm not progressive. I don't think there should be universal health care. Hey, if you have the money to buy the houses, private equity or not, fuck you, loser. But I don't like this attack on democracy. Like, No Kings is something a neocon would say. Notice how they're making an intrinsically neocon conservative sentiment the rally cry of progressives. So what they're doing in that is they're getting you to accept everything was fine, which is what will stand till another agents do all day, until Trump. Rather than Trump's an escalation of a very not fine situation. Trump's an anabolic revolution from Russia. If that's true, why are the same billionaires in power? Why is the wealth of Russia a tiny fraction of our billionaires? Do you realize that any time they wanted, our billionaires could crush the Kremlin under their thumb? You get that, right? So, by definition, this is not an attack from foreign enemies. It's an attack from enemies within who are our leaders. And they're merely working with these other gangsters. You know that, right? And getting you to call progressivism No Kings, and in doing so, you're tacitly accepting America was fine before Trump, so you're normalizing the creep up until Trump, as if there was no reason to be a progressive before that. When if anything, progressive sentiment was already climbing because they were already getting away with fucking us over so bad. And just to prove it, as if the label itself and the strategic organizations like church, where it's designed to make you feel unified, make you feel good, be around people who agree with you. You listen to an empowering sermon. You meet up with others also uplifted by the word, and then you get a free yogurt from the guy who works in the Boston ice cream shop, and he also don't like Trump. And then you go home as if it was not already maximally designed to function like church and not protest. Without even knowing, I said, I guarantee you, I'm going to find who started this, who's the official face of it. I bet you they're from Virginia. I bet you their career was in. Sure, you can ask for this. The woman who started this shit, political career was in Virginia. There's a reason all these obvious CIA things happen in Virginia. Like whenever they have a big white nationalist rally, again to create the vibe. There's a huge white nationalist menace in America. Invariably, it's in CIAville, Virginia, Charlottesville, because they're all fucking CIA agents or no kings. Even the name is a fucking psyop. There's some shit a conservative would say, like, "Oh, I was fine with starving kids and the wealth gaps and no education being accessible anymore and homeless, mentally ill people after they defunded all mental health care, and I was fine with people going broke for kids, but I draw the line at an attack on democracy with Donald Trump." And they made that the progressive rally cry, thus basically turning you into a foreign neocon. Like, no, I don't want to go this far. I just want to go where we were. So by definition, you're saying a progressive basically is happy with the system until Trump. That's a never Trump Republican where you were okay with all the shit before because you're a far right nutbag, but you draw the line at firing judges who don't do your bidding, doing attacks on the illusion of democracy. We know democracy is possible from wealth gaps in a two-party system where both parties are owned. That's some shit a never Trump Republican would say. Yet they have progressives wearing their pussy hats and their "I'm against ICE" banners at a No Kings rally. You don't see that that's the CIA? And if you needed any fucking. And then the entire structure of the thing functions like church, not protest. Like, I feel good. That was fun. I like that. That's why everyone's in it. It's like church for progressives. I I used to say this even before I knew I was in a CIA plot to make progressives violent cultists. I say Sunday afternoon, I'm at work. We got some downtime right now. I'm gonna turn on Bernie Church. Because even then I knew like this is designed to function like church for progressive atheists. You show up with everyone else who agrees with you. You give Bernie passes the collection plate, aka view streams or donations, frankly. You turn it on and Bernie stands up there. "I will not stand for these billionaires." And you're just like, yeah. And then you turn it off and you feel uplifted. Go eat some food. It's church for progressives. If you're not taking risks or talking to people who don't agree with you, you're not protesting. "So you mean I have to take risks to protest?" Like, literally, that's the responses I'm getting. Like, yeah, if you're not doing that, you're not protesting. And I would ask you why you're using a neocon slogan for a progressive movement. That's kind of weird. So you were okay. So there was no reason to be progressive before Trump, is what you're basically saying with never Trump, because that's a conservative view. Conservatives were happy with the country, pretty much. Only progressives were really unhappy with it because we had been sliding right already for a long, long time. It's the never Trump Republican view to be like no kings or like pro Republican liberal, like to emphasize no, we need the appearance of democracy, even though it's corrupted by money. We don't like this firing judges and sending them to jail thing out in the open like that. Like, that's an intrinsically right wing slogan, like the Liberty Project, for example. And they got progressives chanting this. Thus, I guess Michael Moore didn't have a reason to do anything, huh? That was like, no, it was fine. It's Trump caused all our problems. You couldn't ask for this. And the ladies from Virginia, man. Politically, her career specifically. She wasn't born there. She literally got hired by the CIA to work there. Oh man, they're not liking that. This is like when you go to a Christian, you're like, okay, I know this feels good for you, but you know you're really not making any changes, right? Except church is healthier than this because, the function of church is to feel personally inspired. So now you can take the steps to take your drug addiction, to go back to school. None of those things are incompatible with religious uplift, whereas this is worse than religion because It's taking the place of real action. You can be both religious and make real changes, and the feeling of love of God and Jesus and the support of everyone motivated you to take those real steps. And that's why religion's healthy. This is actually worse because it's functioning as actually doing something, but in reality, emotionally and psychologically, it's church. So you're getting the same good feelings as going to church, but it's occupying the spot where real change making should be, unlike real healthy religion. So it's actually worse than church. Like most of the civil rights people and the abolitionists were very religious. And that uplift of religion filled the spot that enabled them to do the hard work to make real change. Like the most prominent abolitionist, John Brown, was doing it because he was so into God. This is why this CIA thing is so destructive, because it basically psychologically functions like religion, where it's like, I'm gonna build you up. I'm gonna give you I'm ethereal, forever, immortal spirit with God, love, confidence, but instead of applying that to the real world, like healthy religion, it's occupying the spot where real change should be. Thus, it's more like a cult or something. Like cults restrict you. Cults give you that feel good religious, but they occupy the spot where your freedom and ability to actually engage in the world should be. That's what makes a cult a cult. And that's why the CIA from the beginning has been researching how to make cults. Because if you may successfully get people into a cult like system, Google Revolution, in some ways, No Kings, you are both giving them an opioid narcotic where they feel good, but you are cutting off their hands and legs from doing anything. Real religion doesn't do that. And they want you to think real religion does. That's another reason the CIA is like promoting Satanism and shit, which is actually a cult that stops you from making real changes and only makes you obey them and the directives of the billionaire elites. In real healthy religion, you get built up when you're weak so that you are empowered to do real productive things. In cults, you get that build up, but it actually it amputates you. You're trapped. You can only do what they do. And that's why there's so much propaganda against religion. Because healthy religion is honestly responsible for the hardest changes that have ever been made in the world. Because you need that ethereal, eternal, I have to do what's right. And religion doesn't restrict you. It's like it just teaches you values and gives you that uplift to act. And that's why the hardest confrontations in history were by people uplifted by religion. You don't see Satanists doing that shit, or no kings for that matter. Because the function of a CIA cult is to give you the same high a religion would give you, but in all ways box you in to a little trap corner where you can't make any choices at all. But you feel like you are. You feel like you're getting shit done. You feel like you're powerful, but you're actually becoming weaker and weaker and weaker and more controlled. And because that's what they're doing to you, they want you to think that's what religion does when it doesn't. Real religion doesn't. It just gives you the framework to have faith in more than this world, faith in more than yourself, a moral code, and the love and uplift to act on your values. Cults will take away your values. Cults will take away your desire to act. It's just us. And amputate your ability to make any changes outside of the group. You don't think that was deliberate? I guarantee you the CIA being so into Satanism, it occurs in tandem with the highest level CIA agents learning how to make a cult and what a cult psychology is, which they were researching since the 60s. I bet you before that, there was no like Satanism. They got you all into Satanism and make you hate religion so much, so you become a slave. And you think Christians are the slaves when they're not. Some of the most rebellious change makers were motivated by God, which gave them the tools to make real changes. Yeah, so they're not liking me telling them the truth. Like No Kings comes from the billionaires, man. It's basically functions like a church and a little bit like a cult. The cult part comes in when they're taking the place of real change, like the ability to do real things outside of them. That's how you know it's a cult. People think cults are like, oh, you're forced to wear a certain thing. They take all your money, they take your passport and identification. That's just like the highest levels of personal control. A skilled psychological manipulator can let you have all those things, make you feel free, but you're so controlled you'll never step out of line. Like, pimps are the best brainwashers in the world. They take a girl who's like in the identity formative years with some trauma from the foster system, and they make it so she can go out there by herself. They're not watching her. They didn't confiscate her passport or her ID, but she will come back to serve him. And she feels like she's making those choices on her own. The CA functions like a pimp to all their underling workers. They feel free. They feel like they're getting money. They feel like they're getting power, just like a well brainwashed prostitute does. But they will always come back to the pimp. They don't have to confiscate their shit. Like, there are degrees of human trafficking. There's a strategy where brute force is used, not psychological control, and they'll confiscate their shit. They won't let them leave. But that's not how most human trafficking works. Most human trafficking is in the mind, where they become a slave so dependent on the pimp that they feel free serving the pimp. And they could have an ID, they could have access to a train and to a bus, and that pimp knows she's not going anywhere. That's how the CIA made you. And they use Satanism as a tool to do it. You feel free. You feel like you're making your own choices. But they're such cult masters that you don't even know you're a slave. Just like a well trained, groomed, and broken down prostitute. And it's not until something happens where they wake up that they see, oh my God, I was controlled. Why do you think this like pro sex work thing is a thing? And there's so many prostitutes saying, I want to do this. I don't want to be rescued. That's a lot like how the CIA brainwashes their lower people. They feel like they're on top. They're fucking winning. They're powerful. They're free actors. Nobody has to make them do this. But they were brainwashed and broken down. So they will always come back and serve the billionaire and the higher level people. There's a lot of ways to make a slave. And the number one thing is the mind. That's the most effective way, because then your slave's not going to try to run away. And, just like in human trafficking, there's degrees of it. As Epstein was a CIA op, they controlled those girls without enslaving them physically. They didn't have, like, for most of them, they came back on their own. They didn't, like, force them. I mean, there was, like, again, because these people are nothing but psychological controllers. So they knew which girl, like, I have to physically restrain versus which one is so broken down. She'll come right back to me. She could have a passport, she could have an ID, and she will come back. And they could tell these things when they're monitoring a potential victim. Like, are you the kind I have to steal your passport? Or are you the kind that's got so much trauma and such a cult personality? All I got to do is say things to you, and you'll be coming back here for more abuse because you feel uplifted and empowered by my control of you, because you're primed from childhood by previous abuse. That's why when you hear stories from Epstein victims, as Epstein was CIA and so was Maxwell, the how they controlled them ranges from, I couldn't leave, they took my passport, I was forced to do this, to they could tell after talking to me for a little while, I would come back. They could tell, like, I had trauma, and when they were feeling me out, what kind of person I am, they didn't need to do all that. And even how they treat each girl was different. So, like, Virginia Giuffre was the kind of girl where she was the kind they could enslave without physically restraining her because she already was abused. Her father sold her into slavery because he already was abusing her. And they knew after feeling her out, her personality and what kind of person she is, this is the kind of girl we just have to say we're in charge now and she'll serve us. But then there was other victims of Epstein who don't have that kind of history where they stole their passports and wouldn't let them leave. And when they had these two dynamics, like even she tells a story of Virginia Giuffre, where they had a girl who was not as broken down, but they were breaking her down to eventually try to make her more like Virginia. And they forced her into a display where she's a puppet. But they didn't do that to Virginia because they knew she's already owned by us in the mind. We don't have to take her passport, her ID, nothing. She'll come right back. But this girl was more one they had trapped. And so they set up a display where she's presented as a non-human puppet. And then they took Virginia, who's already that puppet, because she was already broken in by her abuse from her father and her family. And so as soon as Epstein's like, you're going to listen to me now, he was like, okay. They put the puppet on her lap. They had an actual physical puppet. And so the girl they were breaking down, they probably stole her passport and shit. They were making her pose as a non-human puppet, and not Virginia. And instead they put the puppet on her lap. And what they're demonstrating in that is this girl, we're trying to make her more like you, Virginia. And that's why we're doing more abuse to her to break her humanity. But we have to do that to you because you was already broken in by your abuse. And so you just look at us like your owners. And we can give you an ID, we can give you a bank account even. And you're not going to take a plane and run away. We know you won't. She will. So we got to try to do more shit to make her feel like I'm not a human. I just have to obey them. Because she probably didn't have early life abuse and she was more like, I don't want to do this. And so they yanked her passport, they yanked her ID, and they were just doing these displays. You're a puppet. Virginia's already a puppet, and we're putting a puppet on top of her. That's how inanimate she is. But we're going to pose you like the puppet. So we're trying to make you like her. Oh, the CIA knows nothing but how to enslave people. And all you people who feel like, oh, empowered by Satanism, you're the biggest slaves. You're so enslaved, you can make change and you don't want to. That's the highest level of broken down. Lower level is where they actually have to like take your passport and shit and be like, don't forget you're not a human. If you're already like, no, I want to be a slave because I never had humanity to begin with because I was abused since I was a kid, then they pat you on the head and they don't do all that shit to you because they know you're going to come right back because that's all you know. And you'll feel free in slavery because the idea of not being a slave is so foreign to you. Yeah, so I went a little tangent, but oh man, these libs are not liking me saying No Kings is designed to function as church, but worse than church. That's why they don't like religion, because religion gives you that oomph to make changes, to care about more than what's going on and who's giving you rewards on earth now. Your cult's entirely designed to turn you into a slave, and you feel free. They can let you have car keys, they can let you have a passport and an ID, and you'll still come back to the billionaire dick. You're so powerful, stuck in it. Yeah, that's you people watching this right now. You're the biggest slaves of all. You're the girl Virginia was next to. I mean, you're Virginia, and you're not even the girl that was next to Virginia, where it's like if I could run away, I would. And yeah, they're not liking it. They're not liking me waking them up. But it's just hilarious how without even checking, it was the home base of the CIA. And I want to ask you something, man. Why are No Kings protests advertised by everyone? It's sponsored by Pepsi. But real resistance, like the organic ice skirmishes that pop up, they let you know what's happening, but they're not encouraging you to do that. They are encouraging you to know things. And to use a mantle that's basically brainwashing you to say, like, Michael Moore had no point. Everything was fine until Trump, which is like the neocon view. Why is that? You don't want me to hear, "I don't like how that feels." Well, you shouldn't like how it feels because it's kind of over. But the first step to making change is accepting the truth, right? So no change can happen if you want to stay in denial. If you want to stay in denial in your little CIA group, right? The first step is realizing No Kings is fake. And only from there can you possibly begin to make a real shit happen, right? I mean, it's pretty much over, in my opinion, but yeah, going to church for progressives is actually worse than going to real church. Because if you went to real church and you really believed it, then you could go out in the world where church is not constraining you and be like, I'm going to take these risks. But a cult like church like emotional dynamic where it's occupying the place real change should be is just to enslave you. Yeah. Sorry you don't like to hear that, but it's true. And there's a reason all these like things like the white nationalist rallies in Charlottesville, because they're all agents, and why No King started in Virginia too.